art, like, it sounds so cliche, but it feels like me. It like feels like it's my magic that I can put out into the world. It's something that it makes me understand that like people are born with a talent, and it's something that came so naturally to me that like it's just truly an extension of who I am, that I couldn't imagine my life without creating. I'm Ari Brochin. I'm a multifaceted artist based in Brooklyn, New York. I do a lot of different type of art, like wood cutting and oil painting, and also video content. I've been doing it for about 4 years in total, but I like to say like a year and a half-ish, because I just started this like new fun style about a year ago, so it feels like a fresh start. I'm originally from New Jersey, and then my mom moved to Vermont about like almost 10 years ago, so I kind of call Vermont home now. And then I moved to New York 4 years ago. I moved to New York right out of college, a little bit out of college, and then I started my journey of being a full-time artist right away. I went to a school in North Carolina called Elon, and I loved my school. It was awesome. I loved the people. I had an amazing experience. I had the classic fraternity sorority experience, which we tuck under the rug now. But if I could go back, I probably would not go there, although I have no regrets. It was not for art at all. I actually went there to study like marketing and communications, and then it was there that I realized that I need to be a creative person to survive in this life. So I started a small business in college, and that's kind of where this all started to bloom, and I realized I could like be my own boss and like really do this full time. And also in college, all the people I was surrounded by were amazing, but they weren't inherently creative people, and I found myself itching for that like creativity, and I started to take more art classes, and then I realized I needed to just like do more. I needed to make the effort myself to make room and space for more creativity, and so it just like became like my safe place, so I would do that more often. I want to say it was kind of like it was kind of just immediately I don't really remember exactly what did it for me. I think I just had extra time to take an art class, and I like felt life coming back into myself, and then it just clicked. I was like, this is what's been missing. This is like that missing puzzle piece that like has been missing within myself, that it has made me feel not fully myself here. And it really just was like a snap of the finger kind of click. My art was always kind of interactive in a way. I remember actually in high school, I made this like really cool abstract kind of piece where I like figured out how to like manipulate foam board, and I made like a table, and I made like candles and cups and bowls and stuff that would stick out up from the table. It's sort of hard to explain, but it's like a flat table and then things like sticking up out of it, and then I painted them like super realistically to look like a dining table. And it was things like that that really fascinated me, like kind of pushing beyond what I could just do on a canvas. But I've always kind of painted more realistically and drawn super realistically. That was like the root, that was like kind of what came most naturally to me. And then I kind of weaved my way into doing what I do now. I actually used to move my furniture in my living room every single day. My first apartment in New York was actually around the corner from here, and it was a shoebox. It was a disgusting little shoebox, like cockroaches crawling everywhere. Anyways, it was the living room it was like the living room and the kitchen in one, in like half of this size, and I would move everything. I would move we had like a decent sized couch. I would move the couch over. I would play like Tetris. I'd move the coffee table. I would move everything over so that I could create a tiny little corner just so I could film and paint in that corner. And I did it every single day. And I filmed myself doing it every single day, like doing it until I have a real studio. And over the course of like the 4 years I've been here, this is my first year having a real studio. And it just like kind of slowly, I slowly like got upgraded and transitioned and like progressed. The first year I would move my furniture. The second year I made content for a brand who had an art studio, and I could work out of the art studio in exchange for content. The third year I worked out of a shared studio space in like Midtown. And then the 4th year, I finally made like the financial jump to get my own studio. And it was kind of just came after like pushing myself harder and harder every year. And I got really lucky the first 3 years because the shared studio space, I also worked there in exchange for content. So it just gradually like, it flowed as it was supposed to, as it needed to. Like I'm glad I didn't like jump right into having a studio when I first got here because I would have drowned in it, honestly. And I like feel like I needed to like pay my dues at the bottom before I could start climbing my way up. Well, it's funny because as of recently, I've been randomly meeting new people and I tell them I'm an artist and they're like, oh my God, that's awesome. Like, are you showing it in any galleries? That's always their first comment. And I'm like, no, because I don't need to. And to them, they're kind of like, they have like question marks around their head. And it's so, I feel lucky that I don't need to go that route because honestly, that route is like, it's a route of suffering, really. It's like a struggle, it's an uphill battle. And social media has allowed me to do more things than just show my art. It's allowed me to like express my love for like video content, and also like I can work with brands that are really cool, brands that I love. And the traditional art world is very competitive. So is the social media art world, but I didn't go to art school, and going to art school is like a need for the traditional art world. It like gives you like the knowledge, the skills, the people to know, and it just like, and a lot more on like your CV, and it makes a world of difference. Obviously you don't need that to enter that kind of space, but it really, really helps. And I found that like once I moved to New York and I didn't have that, it made it easier for me to just pivot towards social media. I also like studied marketing and I love like social media marketing. But it's funny that people still ask me like, oh, like, are you gonna show any galleries? Like, when's your next gallery show? Like, those kinds of questions. And like, my answer is always like, no, I don't need to. The idea to use my paintings as props was actually a friend's idea. She's a photographer, and she wanted to do some sort of collaboration. And the first painting I made that was like cut out of wood. There's 2 paintings. One was a crushed marble cigarette box, and the second one was a cigarette. And she saw these and she was like, these are super cool and unique. Like, what if I use them as props in a photo shoot? And I was like, wait, that's a really cool idea. Like, let me make some more and like, let's collaborate, let's make a whole theme. So we decided on the theme of like exploring your inner child and what it means to like grow up and still have that like inner whimsy. And we put together this entire shoot. We both like creative directed it, and it came out like better than I could have ever expected. And I was like, wait, there's something here. Like, I could have just passed that off and kept doing like making paintings, one-offs and whatever, just for like to hang on the wall. But I was like, this is something that's like crazy unique, that like doesn't exist, has never been done before. And I actually had so much fun being on set and helping to like creative direct this and helping to produce it and to do all more than just being a painter. And so then I started to dive deeper into that. I was like, okay, what can I do next? So we did another collaboration, and then after that I started to like work with more photographers, and I started to creative direct my own shoots. And now it's crazy because these pieces have a whole other life where they're in like these beautiful photo shoots and they tell a beautiful story, and they also can be like really cool art for your walls. So they have like many other lives that they can live, which I think is really, really cool and different and exciting. So I am using MDF wood. It's this piece of wood. It's pretty thick and it gets pretty heavy. I range from like a 1/4 inch thick to like 3/4 inch thick, so it could be double this. And I just bought a jigsaw one day from a random hardware store and didn't even watch a YouTube video. I kind of was just like, fuck it. And I drew my shape that I wanted onto this large piece of wood and just like started cutting it out. And I knew I was gonna love it, but I really loved it. I love like doing more than just one thing, like doing more than just painting. And this really this was like scratch that itch I've been wanting to itch for so long. It's just something like new, something different, something exciting. I use oil paint because I love, love, love oil painting. I might actually switch back to acrylic paint soon, but it's a topic for another time. And then I use, for something like this also, I'll use a drill to drill into this part to cut a hole, and then take the jigsaw and cut that out. And I'll use 2 different kinds of sanders. I have a small electric sander to cut some of the small little bits in there, and then I have a bigger sander if I want to make something like, if something's bigger and needs to be rounded, I'll use that. Yeah, it definitely does, like, if the painting feels different when I sell it versus when it's used, because I mean, sometimes it's kind of weird. Like, sometimes it feels higher value when it's sold, but then on the other hand, it also does feel higher value when it's used as a prop. But it's obviously, when I sell it, I can't reuse it. And a lot of the times I've been like renting my paintings to photographers, set designers, creative directors to use in various different purposes. But it definitely, like, I don't know, it feels interesting. Sometimes on set, people kind of forget that they're fine art pieces and will be a little bit rough with them. So then when someone sells them, they know this, like, they paid a lot of money for it. So they treat it very much more nicely versus on set where it kind of can like get thrown around, tossed around. And I actually had a painting that I rented to a photographer break completely in half. So that's also like a scary thing, like renting it and shipping it not being there. And clearly it's like, maybe that wasn't taken as seriously as it needed to be. So yeah, it definitely, like, it depends on like what's happening with the piece. I have thousands of goals. There are so many different directions I want to do. I honestly feel fortunate that I am such a multifaceted creative person, because I want to do more like creative direction. I want to do more set design. I want to do more with these prop paintings. I want them to be on runways, editorials, like crazy campaigns, like be in Interview magazine. I want them to be in like Paper magazine, like crazy places. And there's so many different avenues I want to go in. I want to do more with like my social media content, with the brands that I work with. I want to get more into like doing actual physical 3D art, and do more like sculpture type stuff for set design, for brand activations. There are thousands of things I want to do. I always like to think about what I would say to myself, my younger artist. I grew up in a town that was not very creative. It didn't really push creativity. It didn't really push self-expression. And I would tell them to say, fuck it and do it anyway. I used to get like bullied for wearing like super funky outfits and whatever, and then I slowly started to not, because I didn't want to be bullied anymore. And I wish I didn't do that. I wish, like, in hindsight, I knew that like there was a bigger picture there. So I would tell people to explore, experiment, scratch those creative itches you have in your brain. If you have an idea, write it down, execute it immediately, and like don't be afraid to be loud.